Hello everyone and welcome to another game I played on Ptcgo. For this match I'm going to be trying a new deck, also based around the Aromatisse energy transferring strategy here. But this is sort of a toolbox deck with an attacker of just about every type, and I'll explain it as I go along. So here I'm going to start off, actually mulligan from the get-go. I do manage to get a Spritzy. I'm going to bench it and start off with an Yveltal, the non-EX, and I see my opponent opens with Mewtwo. So he's going to attach a DCE. Fortunately, I did let him go first, or he got to go first. I don't know if I decided to coin flip, but this means I won't be in danger of a turn 1 X-Ball. So here I'm going to attach a Fairy Energy, or sorry, a Prism Energy, not a Fairy Energy, onto Bouffalant and just Juniper my hand away, or Sycamore in my hand away if you want to be a little bit more technical, since that's the card I'm using here. And I'm going to play down a Fairy Garden. That'll give all my Pokemon free retreat. My opponent puts down an Yveltal EX. So this is probably going to revolve around just those two guys, with maybe a non-EX Yveltal for support, and maybe Darkrai for retreat. But the whole deal is just to load up an Yveltal, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, and a Mewtwo with energy and just attack for massive damage. So now my opponent's going to Hypnotoxic Laser. He unfortunately gets heads on that coin flip, so I'm going to go to sleep. And he's going to end me. So that's decent because he ends me into a fairly decent hand. So I get Aromatisse out. And as you can see, as I'm flipping through cards, I have one non-EX attacker of every type except Dragon, and I've tried to choose them carefully in order to essentially one-hit KO important EX or non-EX attackers. Here I'm just going to Ultra Ball away that Genesect, which I use primarily for Keldeo, and I'm going to go for Sigilyph. I do have Zekrom in here to handle Yveltal, but I figure Sigilyph will be best because it has Safeguard, and I can at least try to set up here. Just put it up there to stall for a bit. If he doesn't have a non-EX responder, then I'll have a lot of time to do so, and I'll just slowly whittle away. And here I don't get anything all that helpful, but I'm just going to leave Sigilyph up in the active spot, knowing that Mewtwo won't be able to harm him. However, he does play lasers, so he can get me that way. If he gets lasers and Veerbank out, he will be able to knock me out indirectly, and he does just that. So Veerbank City Gym goes into play, Professor's Letter for 2 Dark Energies, and a Skyla here for another supporter. So unfortunately, Ptcgo now lags very badly, to the point where sometimes the games are essentially unplayable because the action on the screen doesn't match what's actually going on. You quite literally have cards you cannot see after drawing them, which essentially just makes me quit the matches because it becomes unplayable. So my opponent benches another Yveltal EX. So I'm happy now that I've only seen EX thus far. So here I'm going to Ultra Ball away a Spritzy and a Zekrom. Zekrom might be useful in this match, but the return knockout is way too easy to get. So I'm actually going to go for something else. I'm just looking through my deck, and I see Suicune. So I play this as well, namely as a response to Emboar, but it's also a very good attacker against all EXs because of that Safeguard ability. And now I have 2 Pokemon in play that have it. In case he wants to escape rope, I will have something to go into. I managed to get another Fairy Garden, knock out his Veerbank City Gym, and put down a Xerneas, the non-EX kind. And here I'm going to transfer an energy onto Sigilyph. We're using Fairy Transfer. And I now have 3 in play, so I can actually Psychic here for 140, hitting my opponent for weakness. I am poisoned, so that I do need to move out of the active soon. And I see my opponent puts down a Trubbish, so that will spell trouble. It won't be just a straightforward match where I can wall with Sigilyph and Suicune. I actually need to worry about Garbodor coming out. My opponent is going to Juniper here, and here I'm hoping he can't draw into more Trubbish or Tools in time, and hopefully I'll be able to have all my abilities in play, because I do rely on Fairy Transfer, and now will rely on Safeguard for this match. So we see a Floatstone go on to Trubbish, and he's going to manually retreat Mewtwo, promoting his Yveltal. And here I obviously need to retreat my Sigilyph, so he's fairly safe. I won't be able to one-shot him with anything, since I did discard Zekrom. I'm actually going to attach a Prism Energy, or a Rainbow Energy, sorry, onto my bench Spritzy, letting it take the damage, since I'm not going to use it ever to attack. I do get a Tool Scrapper. I will get rid of that Floatstone. And here I'm tempted to play my Dowsing Machine, but I figure it's best not to now. I'm just going to N, giving myself a fresh hand. And you can see I also play Terrakion, mostly as a response to Darkrai. I'm just going to promote here Suicune, Fairy Transfer that energy off of my Sigilyph and put it onto the active, but of course leave one on Xerneas in case I need to use Geomancy to energy accelerate. So here I just hit my opponent with Aurora Beam for 70. I see another Floatstone hit the bench, a Hypnotoxic Laser, a Muscle Band, and another energy goes on to Yveltal. A Bicycle gets played, another Bicycle gets played, so my opponent's desperately trying to draw a Garbodor, but he doesn't. He instead is just going to switch into a different Yveltal, one that has not taken damage yet. Here I'm going to attach a Prism Energy onto Bouffalant, seeing how I may want to Gold Breaker to finish something off at this point. If he is able to turn off abilities, I will have to rely on raw power. I'm now going to switch into Sigilyph after using a Chorus, and I did put a Muscle Band onto it. I'm going to transfer energies. So now that I know he has Garbodor, the danger here is not spreading energy out nilly-willy. I actually have to know where I want them in case one of my Pokemon does go down. So I want to keep 2 on Suicune in case I need to attack in the next turn. And I'm just going to hit him with Psychic for 100. Now my opponent is going to Juniper his hand away, getting rid of quite a few energies. I still don't see a non-EX attacker, which I think is important to run in all decks, but we do see a Darkrai. So now all his side of the field has free retreat. He's going to attach an energy to it. Energy switch onto a Darkrai. The Darkrai can also threaten me. He's going to Scramble Switch into that Darkrai, and he can just slowly whittle away at my Spritzy on the bench, or my Aromatisse on the bench. But he will also now finally get Garbodor into play, and that is really unfortunate. So I lose Sigilyph, and I'm going to now be without abilities, or so my opponent thinks. I actually have an immediate response to this. I'm going to promote Suicune right now, and if you see something bouncing up in the bottom middle, it's actually my Outlook. It goes crazy, and won't stop bugging me. So here I'm just going to actually use a Dowsing Machine, discarding a Serena, I think, and a Fairy Garden, looks like. Or, yeah, looks like I went for a Level Ball and an N instead. Yeah, don't listen to me, just watch the screen. And I'm going to use that to get myself a Tool Scrapper, getting rid of the tools on his side of the field, and once again bringing back my abilities. So Safeguard is in effect, and I will play Serena here. I got rid of N because I didn't want to give him more cards to play with. And I'll just use a Fairy Transfer here to move one of those Prism Energies off. Well, actually I'm moving everything off here just to heal off Suicune in case he wants to start some laser fun. I'm just moving the energy back now, so I'll be able to attack for 70. This is a very slow and painful way to deal damage, but nonetheless, if your opponent isn't properly prepared, you can just take the win this way, slowly. My opponent now is going to just Night Spear, hitting Aromatisse for 30 on the bench, bringing it closer to a knockout. I get a Prism Energy. I'm going to attach it to Bouffalant, since I fear I may lose my Suicune, and I will need to attack with something else. I'm just going to, once again, Aura Beam, doing 70 more. My opponent here is faced with a choice. He can continue to Night Spear, bringing Aromatisse 10 away from the knockout, but he will lose his Darkrai if he leaves it in the active spot. Instead, he's going to retreat into Yveltal and let me attack, I guess. So I'm going to here Super Rod, Sigilif, Spritzy, and Genesect back into my deck. Aurora Beam, and take the knockout. Or no, I can't take the knockout yet. But my opponent is in the lead here, and we're fairly deep in the game. So he's going to retreat into Garbodor. I just hope he doesn't have another tool. Looks like he doesn't, so I'm going to attach that Muscle Band onto Suicune. Now I can hit for 90. Not enough for the knockout, but I will be able to knock it out next turn, assuming nothing changes. And if he has a tool, I have a Tool Scrapper to handle it. So that's why nowadays I think decks need to run at least Tool Scrappers, unfortunately. So my opponent is going to hear Skyla for a Muscle Band. It's probably his only tool left. He will Energy Switch onto Garbodor, retreat it, bring up Darkrai, attach a Muscle Band onto Garbodor, turning off abilities once again. He's going to Ultra Ball here for a Mewtwo. Ptcgo is lagging there. He can hit me for 90, not enough for the knockout, and he hits Aromatisse again for 30, and not enough for the knockout. Here I will remove that Muscle Band off of Garbodor, turning my abilities back on, and now I can play that Sycamore, hoping to draw into something helpful here. And my Fairy Garden comes back into play, and now I can just hit my opponent here for 90 and the knockout, and I finally, after all this time, take 2 prizes. But I look like I sort of have the momentum now. My opponent's going to take or place Yveltal in the active spot. He's going to end me down to 4 cards. He really needs another tool at this point if he doesn't play any non-EX attackers, and I really suspect he doesn't. He's going to Dark Patch onto Yveltal and just pass his turn. So I'm going to attach a Fairy Energy onto Bouffalant, Aurora Beam for the knockout, and take 2 more prizes. So now my opponent is going to send up Yveltal EX. If he has a tool, he can actually take the knockout, and it looks like he does. So another Muscle Band. He'll be able to knock out Suicune, but I do have an energy, so I can get the return knockout, and then he ends me. So I just need an energy, and it looks like I do. So he'll get the knockout on Suicune. I will be able to promote Bouffalant, attach this Rainbow Energy onto it, and take the return knockout and the game. So here comes Goldbreaker, and thank you guys for watching, and I hope you guys enjoyed this sort of EX-free deck.